Hello and welcome to the Module 5 on Microsoft Excel. And in this section 1, we'll be looking at data validation. And the objective of this module is to enable us understand what data validation is, get to the settings, show you the input messages and error alerts. But data validation picks from a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered into a cell. So stay tuned even as we get to the software quickly. Alright, so quickly we'll get to data. From data, we'll get to this section here that says data validation. Click on it and you get to this. Now this is the data validation tab, and on it we have settings, input messages and error alerts we'll be looking at briefly. So first and foremost, I would like us to see the validation criteria, and it can be for any value, a whole number, decimal, list, date, time, length and costume. But before you will be able to perform a data validation, you will need to highlight a portion of the text. So quickly I would go off from here and highlight to this C20 and quickly get back to data validation, and I say I want to make use of whole numbers. Now data validation helps you to put a range of values so that you will not be able to enter a wrong value. For instance, I want to make do with this whole numbers from, let's say, from 1 to 10. Now here says data either between or not between, depending on what you really want to say. But I'm using between because I want that the minimum value that these cells available here should take is numbers from 1 to 10. Now the moment I hit on my OK, now you will notice that anytime I enter a value within the range, there is no problem. And by the moment I put 10, there won't be problem. By the time I put 9, there will also not be problem. Now, but by the time I will input 0 here, there will be an error. It said the user has restricted the values that can be entered into these cells. So thereby this cannot enter. If you go to something like 14, also it cannot enter. So this data validation actually enables you to put values within specified region, and we do that basically so that we can guide ourselves not to be able to put some certain records that are beyond. For instance, you are entering an assessment score that's nobody's supposed to score more than 30. Of course, you need to put this so that you can be able to guide that influence. So quickly I will click on that, and that is that about this particular settings. I'll get back to the data validation, and this time around maybe change it to 30. Let it look as though it's an assessment score. Alright, so we'll still go back to the data validation, still on the issue of the whole numbers. Now I want to put an input message. Now this input message helps to guide you as the user to know what you need to do at this particular cell address as have been highlighted. So first let me highlight through them. Data validation. Now I want to say quotient, and the message I want to appear on this while you are typing is that please enter values between 1 to 30. Now when I click OK, now you will notice that anytime you are trying to put in here, is going to repeat this quotient test here. Now this is actually to guide the user so that he will be able to put in the appropriate values. Now anytime you notice anything wrong with that, it's simply that you are doing the wrong thing in those respective cells. So next to that is the error alert. Alright, so the error alert simply shows you the nature of the error you are doing. So quickly I'll get back to this and get to error alert and also input it. I will simply say error. Now this error should tell me that values entered are not within range, right? Alright, so I'll click on OK. Now let's get this. Now let me say 31, which is outside the range, and let's see. Now the message say error, values entered are not within range. Let me get back to this data validation. This actually supposed to be error spelled properly. So get back and say that 33, the same message will show values entered are not within range. So it's showing an error, and you see a caution already telling you the ranges of values that you can be able to enter into this. So actually the data validation enables you to put a range so that you don't have a mix-up in the kind of data you are also entering. So this is that about the data validation.